Okay, this video is going to be about tanking and just my thoughts on tanking. Obviously, there are three true tanks in this game: Shadow Knights, Paladins, and Warriors. Hands down, if you don't know what tank you want to play, go Shadow Knight. They have the best area of effect aggro. In other words, multiple mobs coming in, you need to snag aggro on all of those. They're the best in the game at it. They are the best in terms of grouping and soloing. They can solo easily. They can take down names. They're very powerful. They're very strong. It's a very active class. You're going to be doing a lot. The warrior is the best for your top raid named, and it's the class you choose when you absolutely have to have the most heavy tanking. But they're going to need a cleric or other healing up there. They can't heal themselves. In a group, you say you lose the cleric, the Shadow Knight can continue to tank and often tap up and be perfectly fine. He can heal himself. But if the healer goes down in a group with a warrior, that warrior is going to be hurting very quickly. The Paladin, I would analogize a Paladin to the rogue in the melee classes. If you want the best puller tank in a melee type, go Monk. If you want the absolute best DPS, go Berserker. Why would you go the Rogue? Well, because you love the class, you like what they can do, the style appeals to you, you like the fact that you're always going to be a little offbeat. Well, that's the Paladin. If you like their style, if you like the fact that you're not going to run into as many Paladins as you are Shadow Knights, you like being able to res and heal and save, it's a great class. I've played it. I love it. Today, what I'm on is a Raid Warrior, a god of the battlefield. I always recommend Heroic Dexterity for your melee DPS classes, and I also recommend Heroic Dexterity generally for your tanking group warriors. This guy is Heroic Agility. There's nothing about him that is focused on DPS. He is focused on defense, staying up, staying alive. I mentioned and showed you earlier the shield hotkey, which basically, / shield, name of cleric. You put the name of cleric in. When I pull a mob and there's multiple mobs coming in, I'll usually hit that shield. It's got a 3-minute refresh, and it means you're going to be protecting the cleric. You're going to take damage that the cleric would otherwise take, because you don't want that aggro bounce where the cleric goes down. If you're pulling a situation where there's going to be a ton of mobs and your enchanter needs to lock them down, you might choose to shield the enchanter. But use that shield function. Shield the cleric, shield the enchanter. Do it often. That's your job. You're protecting the group and you are staying alive. Now, for a modern 115 warrior, Courageous Defense is your bread and butter disc. It should be up pretty much all of the time. That's when you're tanking singles, stuff that you can handle easily. In my first hotkey, I have is a shield, Courageous Defense, Taunt and Ageless Enmity. Those are, I've lost aggro, I need it back now. You hit, both of those do the same thing, more or less. Ageless Enmity might have more built-in hate, but you hit that to snap aggro back to you. You really don't want to be hitting those unless you don't have aggro, in my opinion. Finish the Fight, Dissident Shield, Warrior's Rampart, your Breastplate, Spire, and Imperator's Commands. Those are all, I need a little bit extra defense, and I rotate through those. Anytime you start getting, you look like, oh, my health's going down a little bit, let's pop one of these. They hit pop, finish the fight. That's been down for a while. Let's pop Dissident Shield. You can even pop, finish the fight, and Dissident Shield. I mean, you can become the ultimate tank if you need to for short bits. And they cycle fairly quickly. And so just those are my my extra oomph to courageous defense or whatever I'm doing. Now, in my second hotbar, I have Flash of Anger and Fortitude Discipline. Those are very short-term, save your ass discs that you use on incoming. Generally, you've got 10 mobs. You're pulling all the aggro onto you. You hit those. That gives your healers time to protect you. Ultimate Stand is a stronger defense to courageous defense. It mitigates, I think, 40%. And you have to click off courageous defense and go to ultimate stand if you need to. And then we've got Warlord Tenacity, Warlord Bravery, Warriors Rampart, Armor of Experience. That Armor of Experience, use it when you need it, but it's like a 14-hour or something refresh, so you don't use it very often. Then I've got a hotkey that gives me some extra endurance. The bottom line is a little bit extra DPS. Grappling Strike, if you want to pull a mob to you. Rage of Zalos, a little extra of Ralos, a little extra DPS. Those are just minor. You don't need to worry about those. The nice thing about playing a warrior is it is perhaps one of the calmer classes where you don't really have to push buttons all the time once you've got aggro locked in. On the third bar, you know, I've got my mash key, commanding voice. Those pull up like brace for impact, kind of the short-term buffs, and you just hit that. The shield, you know, champion, paragon, extra shield defense. Gut punch, shield sunder. You want to mash those as often as you can. Shield Sunder in particular procs your synergy once you're ready there. And then Concord Precision. Generally, you're going to do Concordant Precision, which gives you extra aggro. And it also enhances the heals that are incoming. Concord Expanse is on the same timer, and that gives extra aggro to all of your mobs. But it doesn't have the healing benefit. So it's, you know, one or the other. Right now I'm using dual wielding. Dual wielding is the, it does a little less DPS than two-handed sword, but it has much better defensive capabilities, or it doesn't take as big a defensive hit as two-handed sword. Two-handed sword, only do that if you're not tanking. And then, you know, if you're not tanking and you have a good weapon, it may be your best bet. I go to dual wielding when I'm just AAing and doing non-serious content. Sword and board is your sword and shield, gives you the best defense, huge extra defense, but it's about 60% of the DPS that I do with dual wielding. So I've got Courageous up here because this is just a, you know, light blue, nothing mob. I probably should come down and hit Gut Punch and Shield Sunder. But, you know, it's fine if you don't. You're slacking, but that's one of the joys of the warrior as opposed to Shadow Knight, where you're going to be casting spells constantly. You can... You know, warriors' DPS is built into their weapons and, you know, their attacks, their aggro abilities. So I find playing a warrior is, it can be calm and peaceful, except when it's incoming. And, you know, it's easy. If the cleric lives and the group lives, you did your job. The nice thing about, you know, wandering around here to warrior is I can just wander freely. If I'm attacked, I can handle anything. I don't have to worry about, can I assassinate this mob, or, you know, can I handle multiples? I mean, I am designed to handle multiples. Now I got to quickly get aggro, make sure they're not going on my tank. I mean, my cleric. See, they're on the cleric. That I fail. So let's. Now I would normally do shield, but that doesn't work on mercs. But I popped Dissident Shield because I noticed my health had gone down a little bit, and I want to ease the cleric's job. I'm giving myself a little extra. I got my Courageous Defense up, Shields under, I'm hitting my mash keys. Kick is on automatic, so it automatically gets triggered. There may be an argument to use bash. I don't know what it is. I just do kick. Always keep an eye on your aggro to make sure you've got it locked in, and make sure that none of your group members are building up aggro. If they are, then you've got your aggro buttons. Now, the aggro button I have is a hotkey with a bunch of aggro abilities that are short term. Then insult, biting tongue, discipline, unending attention. Those are longer refreshes that I throw in when I feel like I need extra hate. And then also phantom aggressor and projection of fury I use as a lot of like off tank, or again snap aggro if you need it. Stop run is like call of challenge, and gives me, stops the. It's just a thing I use occasionally towards the end of a fight, or somebody wants to run away. Then on the bottom of my fourth hotkey, I have Tempest Blades, Rampage, Wade into Battle, and Area Taunt. Those are my area effect taunts to get aggro over multiple mobs. I use that if I feel like I need it. Tempest Blades has a fairly quick refresh time, so you can hit that fairly often. Now, I am not the best warrior, and there are people who study, exactly how these things, what stacks. There are other abilities that I am not using. I don't use any ability that impacts on my ability to defend. For instance, Vehema Rage gives you additional DPS, but it also lowers the healing incoming by 15%. There are times when that makes sense. I just don't do it. When I play a warrior, DPS is always secondary for me. And it just keeps it very simple to play. I haven't felt any need to go to Sword and Shield here. But that should be your default setting anytime you're in an unfamiliar situation or you don't know about a pull, because your job is to stay up. It's not to do the killing. That's why you have rogues and monks and berserkers. Their job is to do the killing. Now, the nice thing is a Shadow Knight will do more DPS. And that's, like I said, a Shadow Knight is clearly the tank to go if you're unsure, what you want to play. Because they're a fun class. They can just do it all. They can pull, they can heal themselves, they can tank, they can DPS, they can explore deep in a dungeon with their Feign Death abilities. But I do enjoy the warrior. He is, he can certainly get the job done. It's not a question of any of these tanks can prevail. And like I said, you see how, you can solo in different areas. But the nice thing is here, as a warrior, well-geared warrior, I fear nothing. So I've switched to Ultimate Stand here, popping Finish the Fight, which used to be Pain Doesn't Hurt, and then came No Time to Bleed. Now it's Finish the Fight. I'm checking my aggro. I look okay. Nobody's hitting my cleric. Sometimes that you just press stuff to give yourself a little extra. My mash buttons. And see, I could not do this on any of my other characters or any other character. A warrior, an SK can handle this. SKs, you know, they can handle as much as they want. The fun thing about playing an SK is you go through one of those older missions, like the Gribble missions, and you can just pull the entire zone and kill them all at once. You can actually do that on a warrior too, but so let's see. And certainly you notice the aggro here is completely locked on the warrior. The cleric has got a 1. There's none of this, like with other classes, where the mob will wander off and beating on your cleric or kill your cleric. You want to keep aggro, you've got aggro. And I'm not even working for aggro here. I mean, I can hit my aggro button more often. I can hit insult. You've got your wade into battle, rampage, tempest, arcade, area taunt if necessary. I haven't had to use any of those yet. Now, I have used some of my endurance, but the fact is, in the modern game, with Breather, you never are out of endurance, or very rarely. But as long as there's a little break between, little between each battles, you can have it. Now, I do have an endurance hotkey, which takes attack off, hits Howl of the Warlord, and then hits Breather. That's for when there is no lull in the battle, and I'm absolutely out of endurance. I get out of that, click Breather, and then back in the battle. I try not to use a lot of hotkeys. You know, I try not to link all my stuff. But this is how I play a warrior. I'll talk to you guys later.